All right, we are officially live. Another episode of Shut Up and Invest. I can't express how much we appreciate you guys tuning in to every episode, texting us, DMing us, coming into the Facebook group, showing us love. So we're doing a special show today. We're bringing on somebody who's appreciated the show, somebody who plugged in, somebody who reached out, and we were able to work with and do some creative financing and really walk them through a deal. We got Gerard in the house. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, y'all? How you guys feeling?
Doing good, Gerard, man. Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Man, good to see you guys face to face. It's like a dream come true. I watched this so much, it's surreal. So forgive me for blushing and fangirling over here. I apologize, man.
No worries, man. No worries.
That's a compliment. Wild. We appreciate you. We got David listening, talking about let's go. So we are ready to go. Jay, what's up, brother? How's the Chronicles of Puerto Rico treating you?
Man, I got to start doing a daily vlog or something, man, because it's all good, but a lot of running back and forth. I want to shout out Jose and Junior today. They helped me get my stuff off the shipping container from Miami, so big shout out to them. They hooked me up today, so I had to go to the storage unit. Everything's doing good, man. It's still beautiful out here. I had a beautiful mofongo-filled Thanksgiving last week.
So, brother, you're gonna put on some calories if you keep eating like that over there.
No, I took a week. I had 1 week. Now I'm back to normal.
Now we're going back to the vegetarian or pescatarian.
Yeah, too much seafood out here. I'm still pescatarian. Definitely seafood heaven.
Yeah. All right. So Gerard, tell us a little bit about your story. Where were you before you got into the game? What made you get into the game? And then we can get more into a little bit about the recent deal.
Sure thing. So first, really want to show love to Max Maxwell. He inspired myself and my business partner to really just to take a leap of faith. So I was working for AT&T, and we're actually from the same city, right? So we're both from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And, I'm working for AT&T. And at the time, man, I'm like, man, it's got to be more. We all know that feeling, right? We know the story. It's like, man, I know I was designed for more than this. And, I told Max, it's like when I first seen him and heard his story, I was hating a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute. This is guy driving around my city that I know inside and out, doing the numbers that he was doing, which at that time was about $250,000 a month. And it blew my mind, right? It's just like, doing what? And luckily for all of us, he documented his story on YouTube. And I just started plugging in the YouTube videos. And it wasn't a crazy concept. I jumped off the porch, I'll say in June, where I left AT&T. We had a very unique opportunity. We moved south of Charlotte, and we had saved up a little bit of money. And I asked my wife, I said, "You trust me?" And she's like, "Kinda," And I'm like, "Well," So shout out my wife, man. If it's not for her confidence, man, in me and my business partner in this process, we're not here. So
you gotta shout the wives out, man. You gotta shout out the supportive wives. They're huge.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine by the name of Rico Lindsay, he said a good woman is a life hack. And my God, that needs to be on a bumper sticker because my wife is that. She's a life hack. But to make a long story short, she allowed for me to jump out here and get proof of concept. We've been running ever since.
Awesome, man. So you left AT&T and jumped right into real estate? Or you were still working AT&T?
Well, so the position that I was doing at the time, I was driving around. They had me driving around anyway. So I was driving for dollars while I was on the clock. And at that time, I got to the point where I don't know how to do two things at once. I don't know how to walk and chew bubblegum. And so I couldn't focus on my role for AT&T at the time and focus on doing this. And so we took a leap of faith and I poured all into wholesaling, attempting to get my first deal.
Wow.
Got it. And that was June this year, or that was June 2019?
No, that was June 2019. So
2019.
About 18 months ago.
Got it.
You know, I have this conversation all the time, and it's all about perspective. About our gifts can be our curse, but our curse can also be our gifts. And something that you just mentioned that made me think is I can't do two things at one time. I can't focus on one thing and another at the same time. I got a major echo. Jay, why don't you try muting and see if that echo goes away? And then, yeah,
I hear it
big
too.
time. Yeah, now we're good. So most people will sit there and say not being able to multitask or not being able to focus on your job and then work after hours or whatnot is a issue or is a negative standpoint. But that mindset and that actual curse, if that's some might call it, turns out to be a strength because you went all in and started hitting it.
Right. And so, you know, I had too much respect for the people that I was working with and for at the time to be fired. I knew they wouldn't fire me, right? And so I didn't want to do them dirty at that time. And at the same time, I just wanted to see the ball go through the hoop. And I knew if I was going to lock into it, that it would happen. And so, like I said, we jumped off the porch in June. In November of last year, we closed our first deal for 11 grand, a hair over 11 grand.
So from June, when you made the jump all the way to November, you were basically living off savings and really just keeping the faith and keeping the grind.
Living off a decline balance and a side eye. My wife's side eye.
Let me tell you, most people wouldn't last that long. Most people will say, if I don't have something going on in 30 days, maybe 60 days, they throw in the towel. Why don't you talk a little bit about that mindset, that experience, that side eye? Like, how does that really feel when you're in the trenches? What are some of the what I call the monkey brain, where it's in the back of your head, just like going off on you? Like, tell us a little bit about that battle.
So, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. So, it's challenging because, you know, it is a decline in balance. You know, we had about 6 months saved up, and you know, we were in month 5, but I knew before I got into it, I knew that it could potentially take some time. I didn't think it was a 30-day turnaround. I saw it like farming, and so I'm like, okay, if you plant seeds and then you water the seeds and then the weather's perfect, then in about 90 days, you know, you should start to see crops. But that don't mean that they're ready to pull yet, right? So you still have to nurse them until they're ripe. And so all in all, that's at least a 90-day process. And I could tell by some of the conversations that I was having with people, even though I wasn't making money at the time, we were still helping people along the way. And so through all the FUs and the don't call here's and all that other stuff that we get, you know, there was some, oh my God, I just didn't know, you know, I can take care of this. Thank you so much. And so there was still value there, even though it wouldn't turn it into financial gain. And that allowed me to know that, okay, I'm not crazy. You know, we just got to keep going, right? And like I was stating to that mindset as well, when I shifted from, okay, I need to make this money to, man, shout out the book, The Go Giver. Oh my God, if that book, you know, during that time I was reading too. So I was personally developing during that time as well. And so in The Go Giver, he was going through the same situation where it's like, you know, I need this money, I got to hit this quota. Whereas he shifted from, how can I really serve? Who is it that I'm serving? And I know that might sound corny, but it's true. It's like, who are we helping? And the moment, it seemed like the moment that mindset happened, which was around late September, we got our teeth in a really good deal.
That's the way it works.
Awesome. No, and it's 100% true, man, that you make the finances, you make the money when you're helping people out, right? The more problems you solve, the more the income comes. So when you put the money over the problems and the people, you don't actually get the results you're looking for.
Right.
So now you close your first deal. You basically told your wife, "This is what I was talking about. This is what I meant." Now we can get the party started and try to scale this. And that was just doing wholesale. So let's fast forward a little bit and now talk about how you got introduced to just everything else aside from just wholesaling. Like, at what point did you start to realize that real estate investing has got more to it than just wholesaling?
So I learned, man, shout out my brother Alexander Lloyd, because who has done a deal, I believe, with Gerard. He partnered with Gerard on some things. So Alexander, he jumped into it, but he was looking more so he partnered with Pace, right? So he started looking into creative finance and introduced the conversation to us. And I know Pace is the sub 2 guru, right? And so I was afraid of sub 2, just to be transparent. I'm like, I don't know, you guys show me, but I'm good over here with wholesale. And I quickly learned that wholesaling was just a gateway drug, right? It's elementary school compared to the calculus that's out here with all these deals. And so when Lloyd did the deal with you, Gerard, he introduced proof of concept, right? And I guess to back it up a little bit, we heard you guys' podcast about it doesn't make more sense for beginning investors to buy rental properties, or does it make more sense to buy to get into notes? And to that point, I didn't know what a note was. And so from going to understanding what a note is from you guys' podcast to you guys actually doing a note with somebody who somebody who I know, so the concept of a note just, it blew my mind, and I had to do one. I had to test this concept.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I won't lie. Gerard was hitting me up, man. He was hitting me up with different deals and different scenarios, and he said, "I'm Alexander's brother." I'm like, "Wait, this is his brother?" I was kind of confused at first, but he just kept hitting me up, and I would just throw him some little information that I could when he sent me an email or send me a text.
There's no different to that storyline that you guys hear, that we didn't ever think the 4-minute mile was possible until somebody actually went and did the 4-minute mile. And then now there is a bunch of people that can run a 4-minute mile. That kind of happens in our own little world, where we sometimes hear or we see people doing things, even on YouTube, right? Well, we might be doing YouTube University and we see people doing all these things and we're like, man, I know I'm capable of that. And then your monkey brain starts to kind of reason why that might not be real in our reality. Then all of a sudden your partner does it, your cousin, the ex-school teacher that taught you, PE, and now you're like, wait a minute, hold on. Now I actually really know somebody that, it's happening right now with coronavirus, right? There's people that are like, nah, that's media hype, this, that. And then all of a sudden, once they know somebody who's got coronavirus, then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's reevaluate the situation. I don't know why human psychology is like that. We need to go through it or see somebody that we actually know to go through it for it to be something that we will respect or try. But I think that's a barrier. And if you're listening to us right now, this is the reality. Like, I may not know you, we weren't sitting at a Thanksgiving table, but trust me, we are here. Nobody's getting paid to do this show. This is our grind, and it is real, and it can be real for you no matter what market you're in.
Yeah, and it's the whole concept, as you think about it, it becomes reality, right? So if you never knew about a creative deal, you never saw what happened around you, right? Then you heard about it from Pace, you heard about it from us. Lloyd did one, right? Now you're seeing these deals come in and you see the deal differently, right? Because now you say, oh, I can do this with the deal, right? It's like, oh, I buy a red Porsche, so I see red Porsches everywhere. I never saw them before, right? So your subconscious mind actually brings that stuff to the forefront. But if we don't actually get sparked to think about it, we'll never know about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And for those of you listening that don't know what a mortgage note is, and this is the first time you're kind of plugging into us, basically it's the paperwork that says who owes who on the property money, who's paying who the mortgage. So that's the legal document that basically says I got to pay Wells Fargo $1,500 a month, or I got to pay Chase $1,200 a month, or I got to pay Gerard LLC $1,200 a month. And that's what we're talking about. Gerard's finding out that you can be the bank. You can yourself be the person that people pay money to without owning the house. You are now just the lender or the bank in that deal on this specific property. So keep going, Gerard, with your story.
Well, man, shout out to everybody out there who has faith, right? Because like you was talking about that 4-minute mile, first person needed faith. Everybody else just needed belief. So shout out to you guys, having the faith and then sharing it. So man, I'm grateful, man. I can't say that enough, especially for you guys anyway. And so I'm hitting jury up and I'm like, man, I know I'm getting on this guy's nerves, man. I know I am, and I'm like, man, okay, so what's the note? Okay, all right, so can I do this? And because I wanted to make sure it was done right. Because the way we did our note, we sold it same day. So the same day we originated it, we sold the note, right? So typically the notes need seasoning. So they want to see you originate the note and then the person pay for 6 months before you sell it. Well, we didn't have the luxury of time because the young lady who we were helping, she was in a tax foreclosure and she needed her money. They were looking to foreclose within 90 days. So she needed her money ASAP or they were going to put her out the home. And, she was a young lady. She had a stroke. She's in this big house that she wasn't able to upkeep. And it wasn't no position to sell on the market. So she had to sell it to us.
So she was limited on time.
Yes, sir.
And when you say that she was no position to be able to sell it on the market, kind of explain why are the reasons, because there's a lot of people that hear us and will say, well, I don't get it. Why didn't she just give it to a realtor and sell it like everybody else does, quote unquote, on realtor.com and, the traditional real estate side of things, which is why they don't think this is real. They don't understand that there is people that will not do that because they're on a time crunch. Or what are some of the other reasons? What was going on with the property?
Well, the property was sitting on 15 acres, right? So it's a 3,000 square foot ranch sitting on 15 acres. The 15 acres hadn't been tended to in about 20 years. It hadn't been, and so it's growing wild. And so I guess specifically to answer your question, the reasons the realtors couldn't get maximum value, the property at the top of the market would be worth, compared to what other things are sold for in the area, if it were perfect, about $300,000, right? And so, in its as-is condition, one, it was in the middle of the country, so there are no real comps, right? So the realtors typically base their prices, their listing prices, based off of what other things have sold for. And you guys pull comps, it's 90 days and half a mile. We had to go back 2 years and 2 miles to find anything that is sold in this area. And those prices were scattered all over the place. Something might be worth, 150, same square footage, but the land, something might have a ton of land, but not the square. So it's no comps. There's no real comps.
Right.
And the tax value of the property, as it sat was $210,000, but man, the condition of that property, it had carpet in the kitchen that was matted, right? So one, it had carpet in all of the kitchen and all of the bathrooms, and that original to the house in 1970.
That 70s carpet is different too.
All up. All up. So, you know, and beautiful young lady who lived in this property, you know, she incredible spirit. My God, you know, I got all the love in the world for this woman. She just, you know, we got to know each other, and, you know, during this process, you know, she's good people. Mm-hmm. And she just was in a situation where all of her family was up north, so they lived in a different state, and she just and she had a stroke recently, because we had contacted her October of 2019, and she called us in May of this year. And so because at the time she was all right, but the stroke changed everything. You know, and so, you know, in building a relationship, and long story short, the property as it sat was barely worth $100,000.
Got it.
And so, right.
So now, how did you kind of see the deal at first, and then how did it end up with the creative financing side? And walk us through the numbers.
So initially, so we had to agree to a price point, and so she was initially asking us for like $140,000, and what we were looking to do initially was wholesaling. And so to wholesale the property, we needed it so that we can get it to an investor that they can make their money, because the property's going to need at least $100,000 of work. We needed it at around $100,000, you know, but she really needed about a 125, and that was the hang up. You know, it's like, you know, at 125, I don't know that we can wholesale it at 125. So I don't know if we can help her. So in bugging jury and in understanding selling the first position, it was okay. The tax value of this property as it sits is $210. If our thoughts were, if we put a family in this property that knows how to do the work, they can essentially build in their equity over time. They can move into the property as is, because for us, and move-in ready is subjective, right? So associate attorneys, before you tell somebody it's move-in ready, that's a different conversation. But it is subjective.
It is subjective. It's very subjective what moving ready means to you or me or somebody else.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
And so,
yeah, you were cutting off there for a second, but no, you guys are 100% right. That's what I want everybody listening to really take from this show. Like, stop making your own judgments, because that 1970 carpet for me is just not gonna rock with my style, and my, you know, it's just not. The vibe is not there. But somebody else will say, I could do this for 12 to 18 months and then figure it out.
Right. And so that was the situation with this house. And so our thoughts were, if they were to put, because they know how to do the work, it wouldn't cost them $100,000. It cost them a significant amount less, and they can do it over time. This is their forever home. And so, you know, we couldn't sell it at $300,000. And so we decided to sell it at $210,000, right? With a down payment. And the down payment that we were asking for was $30,000, and we were just going to sell off the first for 70% of the value of the remaining principal balance. So I guess
So real quick, because I gotta go over some people's heads real quick. So it was the price was $210,000, right? $30,000 down. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're at 180, right? And you're gonna sell the 180 at 70% of 180, correct?
Right.
Gotcha.
That's and what you guys are. So you're marketing the property at 210 out there to potential buyers that hopefully will come in and do the work themselves. You don't actually know somebody. That's just the what we call the marketing avatar, the person that you're targeting that is going to potentially come in and buy the property at 210 because you have the young lady who's willing to take 125, correct?
Right.
Okay, so you're saying if I can find the person that's going to come in and pay $30,000 down at 210, now we have a mortgage, a note for $180,000 as seller financing.
Yes.
Now I
Yes,
still
sir.
got to give her $125,000. So if I only got $30,000 from the down payment, how am I going to come up with the rest of the money to pay her $125,000? That's where we're at right now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Continue.
Definitely.
And so that's why this stuff is calculus, man. Right? That's why, wholesaling, you get it at a price that solves their problems. You find somebody that buys it a little bit more. You keep the spread. You're done. That's it's no algebra in that. But this, and it's simple, but it's
yeah.
So we got 180, right? So we found somebody. We actually hosted an open house, and had we had about 20 different families come through, 11 of which who were actually serious about it. And I actually ended up in a little bidding war. And shout out my business partner, my brother Ray Brown, Ray, because I was thinking like, okay, we said 30,000, well, if this person puts down 40, then it's gonna be 170. And he was like, well, no, if this were traditional, that they just run the price up. So long story short, the sales price ended up being 219 because we got into a bidding war.
Nice.
So we got into a bidding war. So it ended up being 219. And so and we still left it at 30,000 down because it was good people who were selling it to, but it ended up being 219. So the unpaid principal balance was 189. And so now we got to sell this principal balance to an investor. For us, we was looking at 70% of the unpaid principal balance so that the investor got a deal, right?
Definitely.
Which would land us around the 125. I don't have my calculator in front of me, but I'm sure that landed us around the 125, which was going to pay her out, right? And we were happy just keeping the down payment. I mean, we were elated, and so what we did was. So once we had to make sure that the buyer was Dodd-Frank compliant because they were going to live there, right? So that is the one thing that I don't want to say I didn't listen, but I got lost in making a deal happen that you guys specifically said do this with investors so that you don't got to worry about that part of it. But we figured it out legally. I have an incredible attorney up here. And so we made sure everything was Dodd-Frank compliant. If you guys don't know what that means, just Russ, the underwriter, is incredible. And so we got the homeowners underwritten so that they could afford the home. We knew that they could afford the home. And so now we got to sell the note. So then we started marketing the note buyers. And I just joined a bunch of groups on Facebook and was just putting out the details of the deal. And we found somebody who paid us essentially $160,000 for the note. For the note.
Wow.
Wait, 160. So you got more than 70%.
Yeah. So right. And so he bought it based off of, so it was 70% of the sales price is what he bought is the 70% that he was seeing. So, I was expecting 70%. So, man, shout out my buyer. If you see this, man, look, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I was prepared at 125, brother. Listen. So he bought it at 160 because 160 was 70% of the 219.
Close to.
So not the 70% of the.
He actually paid a little more. He actually paid a little more than 70%, which is great. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still walking in with $19,000 of instant profit because the mortgage note, right, the paper, the loan is at 189. You sold it to him for 160, so now he gave you 160. He's already got $19,000 in profit there. Plus, now he's going to collect monthly payments with interest. What was the interest rate that you guys assigned?
It was 7%. Pardon me, 8%.
8%. He's going to make 8% on his 160,000. So he's happy with that because it's hard to get 8% returns out there, especially in something secure. So he's happy with that. Now you guys have 160 and she only needs 125. That's $35,000 spread right there. Plus the 30,000 you collected as a down payment. I think everybody could do the math there and see how that deal turned into something to celebrate.
Yeah, he actually so Gerard, the buyer, he actually paid 85% of the loan balance is what he paid. 85% of the 189, which there's buyers for that. Like Kevin's explained, his 85% on 189 at 8%, the yield is probably about what, like 10%? The yield, Kevin, on that 10, 11% on his money.
Yeah, we got Bilal here. He says, I'm lost. He robbed Peter to pay Paul and Paulina. Basically, but it's not robbing. So, like, we're going to break down the whole deal right now one more time. Bilal, let me see if you guys, because I'm sure you're not the only one who's basically saying, wait a minute, this case study is shock factor. That's what usually happens, right? Because people don't understand that this is the game out here that you can play completely legal. You can either sell the property or you can sell the loan. So that's kind of the first thing you got to wrap your mind around. Or you could do both.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what happens? Right. Every time we explain, because what you actually did was you wholesaled the note, right? We had, me and Kevin had a couple episodes on wholesale on the note, and I explained to people, because I do it all the time, they get completely lost, right? So what you did was you locked the property up under wholesale terms, but it wasn't really wholesale terms because that price was kind of high. You couldn't wholesale it, right? Then you went and found a seller finance buyer who would pay more. You did that deal, wrapped that deal up, and then you sold that instrument, right? That note is a security. It's an instrument. It's like a stock. You sold that instrument at a discount, right? So there was no robbing Peter and Paul. You just did an extra step that people don't do all the time, and you actually made a deal that was not a good wholesale deal. Bring you what, 50,000 profit on that deal?
After everything's said and done, about 56.
Got it.
About 56.
Beautiful. All right, so let's walk it through one more time for our people out there. So Mr. Banks is saying, you wild and more money, more money, more money, more money. 100%. All right, so look, option A, Jay, mute me because I'm hearing my echo again. Thanks. All right, so option number one would have been she wants 125,000, the original seller. Gerard, how'd you pick up this lead? Direct mail, cold
tax
call?
Delinquent.
That what?
Tax delinquent. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we're good. Tax delinquent list. How did you contact her?
Cold call. I picked up the phone.
Woo! I love it.
That's my girl too.
All right.
She's good people.
So we're cold calling a tax delinquent list. We found a motivated seller that was in a tight situation and needed $125,000 for this 15-acre jungle that was unkept, that easily needs about $100,000 worth of work if an investor like us was trying to flip it like you guys see in the TV show. That's kind of like the only way most people look at real estate investing. Can I buy it at a discount, put money into it to fix it up, and flip it for a profit? If you bought it at 125 and you put 100,000 into it at 225 and you were able to sell it anywhere between 250 and 300, you might make a little money after commissions and closing costs and taxes, but all that work and all that risk of money to make, 20, 30 grand, if everything goes well, most investors are not going to like those numbers. They're going to want more meat on the bone, as like they like to say, which makes it tough to wholesale at that $125,000 acquisition price. which is if she really needed that number, that's why Gerard said, I got to figure this out. I got to look at it creatively because I'm not going to find a traditional real estate investor that's going to flip and want to pay me not 125 because that's what she wants. So if we need to make a profit, let's say I put 20 grand on top of that, that's 145 that I got to try to dump it. So the guy who's going to flip the property is going to put 100 grand. Now we're at 245 with closing costs and everything. It's just not worth it to take that risk and maybe sell it for 300,000. So that's why the traditional wholesaling to someone that wants to flip doesn't work in this particular story. So now you turn around and you say, if someone wants to live in it and they do the work themselves, the numbers are different. They might be willing to pay more. You establish the number by seeing what the county said it's worth on the tax evaluation website. And they said 210. So you said, all right, that number sounds good. We will market this property at 210 out to the general public, hold an open house, right? Am I on point so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to market this to the general property at 210. We're going to ask for a $30,000 deposit, and we're going to tell them we're going to be the bank. We're going to do seller financing at an 8% interest rate, making the payment, whatever it is at that point, XYZ, $1,300, $1,400, whatever it is. A buyer's going to say, I got $30,000. I can come in and do the work ourselves. We'll live in this property and we can make that mortgage payment. We want to buy the deal, which is exactly what happened once you held the open house. So now you have a seller who wants $125,000 on this side. You have now a buyer that's willing to give you $30,000 deposit and take over a mortgage at $189,000, paying 8%. Right? Am I right
Yes,
on
sir.
this?
You on it. You on it.
All right. So you actually had a bidding war. So it actually sold at 219, making the mortgage now the note, the loan on the property, 189,000. But you only got 30,000. You still got to pay her 125 to make this whole deal work. So you're making promises, and now you got to figure out how to get the rest of the money because you have interested people willing to say, we're in on this deal.
Right.
All right. So now you get on, and I love this part of the story. You join every freaking Facebook group you can possibly find. You hit up everybody and basically say, I don't have a property to sell. I have, like Jay said, an instrument that's paying a return on investment, and it's called a mortgage note, a loan on a property with people already in place that are willing to make an 8% interest payment per month on your money, but I'm going to sell it to you at a discount. So it's $189,000 loan at 8%. You can come in and get this at $160,000. And an investor that has money, that while it's in my bank account, it's sleeping, making me no money. You come to me and tell me this, and I'm looking to put my money somewhere. I evaluate the deal and I say at $160,000, I have an automatic $19,000 profit because the loan is $189,000, and they're going to pay me 8% every single month for how long, Gerard?
That one, I believe, 20 years, if I'm not mistaken.
So for 20 years, this guy's going to make 8% plus the $19,000 profit, which is what Jay was saying. You're actually making a lot more than 8% because you already got a profit there. If they refi or sell the property, they got to pay you back at 189, not at 160, which is what you invest and bought that note for as a note buyer. So now Gerard is sitting there, and he's basically the guy that put everybody together. I got the seller who wants to sell at 125. I got the buyer who wants to put $30,000 down and start paying a mortgage at 189. And now I have the guy who wants to buy that mortgage and actually become the bank at 160,000, which now I take that 160 from him. I take the 30 from the buyer that's going to end up living in the property. And then I pay the original seller that I cold called off a tax delinquent list her 125. And that is the 56,000 and change after closing and fees that I take home. And that is a creative financing deal all day, every day, done to perfection.
Hey, I'm about to cry, man. I feel like a proud dad.
Shout out this show. Shout out this podcast, man. This show right here.
No, it's funny, man, because honestly, me and Kevin we have been talking about that because I was doing that kind of wholesaling the notes, and for you guys, first for Lori to figure out it with me, but then for you to take it to that level where the guts it took too, right? Because you didn't have that note buyer already. You didn't have one, right? You didn't have one. I know how that is, right? Because you got this wholesale, you got the seller right here waiting. You promised these people to buy the house, and you had to go make it happen, right? But because you believe that there were note buyers, because there's a lot of note buyers. I mean, there's more note buyers than people understand. There's a whole market of note buyers, right? So the faith, it goes back to that faith you had. You had the faith that, hey, I put this together, that together, I'll find a buyer, man. So congrats. That's an amazing deal.
Yeah, me and God got like this.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to point out. You're sitting there with your fingers crossed. Mm-hmm. Look, worst case scenario, this is what people need to understand. And sometimes I say you got to kind of grab them and just go for it, because worst case scenario, you just go back to the buyer and say, hey, sorry, the deal fell apart. Go back to the seller and say, hey, sorry, for whatever reason, the deal fell apart. And that's it. Like, you're not, nobody's dying.
You're not going to jail. They're not going to kill you. Like, you're good, But yes, people are afraid of that, though, Kevin. People are so afraid of having to just make that, hey, it didn't work out. Right. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
9 out of 10 times it does, but 1 out of 10 times, that's the conversation you need to have. Hey, listen, the numbers didn't make sense. We couldn't figure this out. I'm sorry. We're going to have to, cancel the deal. And people move on with their lives. They go back to right where they were before they even made an offer and negotiated. Nothing changed.
Hey, a key to that too is a wholesaler could not have helped that lady out, the seller, right? You know that. So she's probably had realtors, wholesalers, investors say, hey, nothing we can do. So the fact that you even took a chance at making it work, right, was probably good enough to her. But then to make the whole thing go through, I'm sure she was ecstatic. She had to be ecstatic.
I love the deal. We got a couple questions. Well, first, Bilal says this is the creative financing deal of the century. Unreal. So he got it. He got that part. I think he's with us now. Joseph is asking, do you mean the note buyer's making $29,000 right away? He's making $19,000 because it was
an equity. So so understand the equity in the note. He bought the note for $160. The balance is $189, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think it was 29.
He has $29,000 of equity in that note right there in the beginning.
89. Hold on. Oh yeah, you guys are right. I'm doing math wrong. 29,000. Correct. I'm saying 19,000.
And then Daryl had a question too. Daryl said, how much did you get from the note buyer that you gave to the owner? Your deal. So remember, Gerard locked it up in a contract with the owner like he would any other deal, right? So your contract price was $125, right?
Yes.
So the note buyer, the owner got $125. He got the difference from $160 to $125 minus any closing costs. He got that difference, right? Let's say, what was it, like 30, let's say $30,000. He got that difference, but he kept the down payment because he created the note. So he kept that $30,000 down payment. So you got to remember that part. You get the down payment because you're just selling the note to the note buyer, not the note plus the down payment.
Right.
That's the key. A lot of people think you got to give the down payment you collected over to the same person that bought the note and the mortgage note, and that has nothing to do with it. They're buying basically the agreement that you said at $189,000 over 20 years. You're going to pay at 8% interest. So they are saying, cool, that's automatically a $29,000 profit if they turn around and sell it the following month. So my money's protected because it's tied to the property. If they don't pay me, I take over the property. That's one thing. If they do pay me because they refinance or they sell it, they got to pay me $189, not $160. So I make $29,000 from the jump. And if they don't and they pay me 20 years off 8%, then they're going to be paying me a whole lot more money. So it's a win-win situation for the note buyer. I love it. We do it all day. That's all day. Exactly the
and that 80 of the balance.
That what? I'm sorry, Jay.
I mean, and let's remember, he sold it for 85% of the loan balance. That's not out of the norm, Kevin. You know that. I mean, 85%. If it's a 8% interest rate, I mean, you can't find that kind of return on your money anywhere, right? So that's not out of the norm, so that's a normal deal.
Mr. Banks is saying tax delinquents or pre-foreclosures or don't matter. Correct. I mean, you could find these deals and all the type of different motivations that people have out there. That's 100% correct. Let me see here. Did we get this? So the note buyer had to bring the money first before he could close with the seller. So yeah, this all happens the day of closing. So the note buyer wires the money to the title company. The buyer who's given $30,000 down payment wires their money to the title company, and they do all the paperwork, and then they distribute the funds to everybody that has their portion. So Gerard gets his money, the seller gets their money, and the note buyer gets now the note, the paperwork, and is going to start collecting payments. And the buyer gets the keys.
Yep. Everybody gets happy.
Bilal saying this is what banks do with your mortgage, I gather. 100%. Listen, guys, we do deals all day long, and we will close with Quicken Loans that you guys see on the commercial, Rocket Mortgage, and they will turn around and sell it to Wells Fargo 9 out of 10 times. Why? Because they sell it at a discount. This is what they do. They have a secondary market. This is the game that banks play. So this is traditional banking.
Yeah, this is a mortgage. It's a mortgage-backed security, right? It's a mortgage-backed security. That's all that it is, right? So you just have to realize that we can be the bank too. It doesn't have to be Chase Bank or Wells Fargo or Bank of America. Before those banks existed, me and Kevin or me and Gerard would do this with each other the way that we do it now. So you have to get out of your mind that only a bank can do this. No, any of us can be the bank, right? It can be a car, it can be a house, it can be Kevin's hat, right? You create a note, you can sell the note, you can sell the note in pieces if you want. You can do whatever you want to do with the note, right? But making the note is the power. The power is in the actual note.
Yeah, 100%. Mr. Brown is saying fire. We got Mr. Banks asking, so the owner is taking payments. So the note owner, the person who bought the note, I'm sure they're doing it under a corporation and they service it, or they have a company that services it for them and they'll collect the payments for them. The owner got the $125,000 that she wanted from the beginning that Gerard said, no worries, I'm going to get you that money. How Gerard got it, she doesn't care. She just wants $125,000. Correct? Was she thankful, Gerard, when she got the money?
She was very grateful. And what's also unique about that too is because we were bumping into situations where, like I said, we got real close to God because there was a lot of different ways where it was like, well, is the note buyer going to come through or whatnot? And so something else that we could have done that the owner was open to, because we let her know what we were doing. I had a conversation after we built the rapport. It's like, look, we're looking to be the bank to a family that wants to make this their forever home. And so this process may take, I told her 45 days. I was like, our goal is to be done within 14, but this process may take up to 45 days because we have to find somebody who's going to pay us back our money. And the moment we find that person, then we'll be able to cash you out. So we set a proper expectation. However, even had that scenario not worked, because of our relationship and because of her fear for capital gains, it was like, look, we can pay you, $1,000 a month, for the next 125 months. That way you got cash flow coming in, which was also something that she was considering. She was okay doing it either way. So had we put the note together to where because the payment ended up being 15.8 over the 20 years. So if we had made an agreement with her, which was also on the table, it's like, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 a month for 125 months. That's what, 10 years, 5 months. She would have been done, and then we would have still had another 8 years left at 15.8.
Oh, Gerard, you sounded like a pro right there. We do those deals too. That's creative financing part 2. And I love it because you had a backup plan that no matter what, if the buyer, which somebody's asking this question here, so this is a good topic. If the buyer who's buying the property at $219 and giving $30,000 down is paying $1,500 a month, let's just use that number, and she's willing to take $1,000 a month if you wouldn't have been able to find the note buyer and be able to give her money right away. Regardless, the deal happens. You keep the down payment and you have now $500 a month in cash flow that would have been coming in for as long as you needed to pay her off. And then the rest of the money would have been all yours. You still would have creatively been able to do the deal.
Yeah, and that's a wrap. Yeah, just so you know, Daryl, the wrap would have been if he would have locked it up with her on seller financing terms, then sold it to that end buyer on seller financing terms and stayed in the middle. But because he paid her off with cash, she got paid off. She got her 126 and walked away. So it's not a wrap then, right? The wrap means I lock it up and then I stay in the middle and I get payments per month.
Right. So we got Joseph asking, the title company writes the note. They can. That's where you guys got to talk. Who wrote the actual mortgage note in your situation, Gerard?
Shout out Russ, the underwriter. Russ, he did the underwriting process for, he charged us $500. Anybody else they probably get them cheaper. I don't know. We were new, so we probably paid that new person price. But he charged us $500 to do the underwriting, and then another $250 to do the mortgage instrument.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good numbers right there. That's good.
Which was covered. Well, it was supposed to be covered by the buyer at closing costs, but I'm the type of person, I'm not going to let closing costs come in the middle of a deal. And so we ended up paying a lot of money in closing costs. I mean, we paid a lot, but at the end of the day, because our actual profit was supposed to be a little bit closer to about 65, but we ended up walking away with 56. And all of that wasn't closing costs. Some of it was, like we had to survey that property, which we didn't have to do, but we did so that we want to provide as much security as possible because we were originating the note. This is our very first one, so we wanted to make it lock tight for the potential note buyer. So we didn't want any excuse for them to go, nah, this isn't good. It's like, look, I got the appraisal done, I got the survey done. We paid about $8,000 between closing costs and just extras, which ultimately came out of that. It came out of those differences
to the profit.
Right.
Yeah, and that's normal. Yeah, that's normal. We always end up paying some closing costs. You have a homeowner who can't go to a bank for a mortgage, putting $30,000 down, and then there's another 5-6 in closing costs. You're going to eat some of that. That's normal.
Right.
Yeah, no, 100%. There is nothing wrong with doing that. That happens all the time. And I mean, talk about, listen to what we're saying. Oh, instead of 65, 56, like I think anybody all day will still be taking those kind of problems.
Listen, I probably made $63,000 my last year at AT&T. So shout out to the people at AT&T making more money than I kind of took I knew it was time for me to go. Like I said, I'm about to get fired. I wouldn't do what I was supposed to do. You can make a lot more money than that. But I wouldn't. That's a year
one deal. And this one
100%. We got the REI Taylor's asking, can you demonstrate how the contracts with each party was set up? What type of contract are you using for the note buyer?
what did we use for them? So the purchase agreement was a standard wholesale purchase agreement. It was nothing fancy about that. Whatever you use for wholesaling, that's what we had with the A to B side of the agreement, which is the original young lady who owned the property. Are they asking about the
how did you?
mortgage
What
instrument?
agreement did you have in writing that the note buyer was committed to the deal? Did you have anything that you guys actually signed?
Yeah. So the note buyer, and we had a bunch of note buyers, believe it or not. So we had like a little bidding war there too, because the original note buyer that we had was offering 150. Somebody came in at 155, and so that ran the price up. But once we accepted their verbal agreement, they sent us paperwork that we ran by our attorney to make sure everything. Because I didn't know none of this stuff. You know, I'm just falling forward. So massive shout out, like I say, to Jury, because I blown up his inbox, and massive shout out to my attorney. We live in an attorney state. So if you live in an attorney state like me, just run everything by your attorney, because they got to know they putting it all together. And so I guess to specifically answer the question, the paperwork came from the note buyer. They sent us an agreement, and they had all the paperwork necessary to make it go, because this is what they do. They buy notes. Yeah. And so that conversation wasn't even so much with us anymore. That conversation really kind of shifted towards them and the attorney. So they sent us the agreement to buy it for 160, and all the other paperwork, like it's like the Alliance paperwork, which is like it's like a transfer of service, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
it's like assignment.
Right. See, y'all, I'm green. But that's what it was. Those conversations were happening between my attorney. I mean, we were all a part of the email thread, but they were going back and forth about what paperwork was necessary to make it all go. And I just was like,
and that's the name of the game, guys. When this happens in traditional mortgages, like, you don't need to know everything. You just need to have the team member that's going to handle what they do. So your real estate attorney should be able to take it from there and make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And if they don't know how to, you find the one that does, or they will find that one that does, and we'll put this together. Trust me, when a deal is going to get done, there is people that do deals and they will get it done legally and correctly, and you won't have a problem. And each person will advise you, and you learn along the way a little bit. But even in learning, you still let them do what they do best. That's like not on me. Like, I get title searches all day, every day. Sure, can I read them? Can I look at them? Sure. But at the end of the day, I never make any decisions on them. My attorneys, my title companies, they're the ones that play that role on the team and handle that part of it.
100%, definitely.
We got Mr. Banks asking, can you find note buyers and their criteria first? And would Facebook groups be the best place to do that?
Let me take a hit of that real quick, because yes, you can find them. Actually, when I was talking, a lot of my note buyers that we do the same thing with, we already know what they want, right? So we know that they're going to buy 80 to 83% of the loan balance. We know what areas they'll buy in. They know what price points. We just go find the deal, make the note deal happen, and sell the note to them, right? Facebook's a great place, but honestly, any investor that's a rent and hold, buy and hold investor that wants cash flow will be open to buying notes for the most part, right? The majority of them, if you show them a note, they're not going to turn it down if the numbers make a lot of sense, right? So yes, Facebook groups are good. There's multiple note buying Facebook groups, but whatever market you're in, just talk to your seasoned investors, right? These guys that own a lot of rentals are probably buying notes too. The way I found out about notes were all my guys that I had that were buying rental properties, right? They stopped buying rental properties, 10 years ago, started buying notes, but it's the same investors.
Yeah. At the end of the day, a Facebook group or a meetup group or a real estate investing association, anything that has the group of people that fit the demographics and criteria that you're looking for, that's where you need to be hanging out. You need to be hanging out, and there's nothing wrong with finding out what they like. And then if you go fishing and you know somebody likes trout and you find trout, as long as you're organized with when you meet people and what they like, then guess what the next step is go and call all your trout buyers and let them know you just came back from the river with some trout.
Mm-hmm.
That's how simple it is. That's how simple it is.
And to kind of piggyback on that too, is like I was telling you guys, you know, that was my very first time doing anything remotely close to that. So your attorney is everything, right? So as long as your attorney, if you're not transparent with nobody else, be transparent with your attorney, but you should be being transparent with everybody, right? So the attorney, and once you actually have everything in place, the second piece to that was the relationship. So even if we didn't find the note buyer, which glory to God we did, but even if we didn't, the relationship allowed me to go back because it was a certain point where I didn't know. So I went back and it's like, hey, and when you get so close to the closing table, people can almost like taste it. So it was two things, there's a couple things going on. She was in a time crunch. So she didn't at that point have time. We were like 4 days away from closing, right? And so she didn't have time to now go find a realtor and do all these other things. And so she see me actively doing what I can to make this work. So when I went back to her and was like, hey, can we, if we had to pay you $1,000 a month, you know, and move you to New York, because that was part of it. She had to move to where her family was. It's like, if we had to pay you $1,000 a month for the next 120 months, would that be the end of the world? And she's just like, as long as you give me my money, you know, like she said it joking because of the relationship, but she didn't, at that point, she didn't care, you know, so it allowed us a backdoor option, but we luckily didn't need it because it ended up being a great deal for the note investors.
Joseph is asking, how many days did the whole thing take, and how close was it to going to auction if it didn't happen?
It was about 32 days away from auction, and it took us from beginning to end, like July. I think we locked it up like July 7th, and I want to send you guys the HUD as well. It took us from like July 7th to September 1st, so right at 2 months. The original closing date was August 21st, but we got delayed because of the survey. Like for whatever reason, the note buyers wanted this survey, and it was really rainy. It was a lot happening between COVID and all kinds of other stuff. So again, I thank God for the relationship with both the new borrower and the actual homeowner, because we were doing a lot of this for a long time, and there's a lot of promises, and it's like, you know, like it's work, but it's working, you know, and the work really ain't work. It's just making sure you're doing what's necessary to meet the next promise and make sure everything is a win for everybody.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so key. Like it's not really that much work, right? Because people always say you're doing so many extra steps, right? But like it's not that many extra steps. I mean, when you're doing these things, it's just natural to do that next step. Look at the payday, look at the seller, look at the note buyer, look at the homeowner, right? How many people got blessed and were happy through this whole transaction, right? So it's totally worth it.
Right. Four people.
4 people.
You know?
Yep. And the best thing too is now Gerard's texting me all the time, like, hey, we can do this. I can create this note, and then we can do that. Like we had a long talk, like was that 2 weeks ago? We had a long talk where we sat down and said, yeah, we can do it. This is what I'm doing right now. We can do this. And it helps out all these different people involved, you know, because let's be honest, banks aren't going to loan on homes where a lot of us buy homes at, right? They're not, you know. So the power of doing this, of knowing how to create a note, seller financing, and be able to do this can help communities out if you just learn how to do it.
And a big thing for me, I want to be able to give back. Like I don't like being in situations where I take, and I feel like you guys have given so much that it's like the least I can do is like, what are you guys looking for around the country? Like what what is it that I can do in my natural daily walk to serve you guys who have served me? I don't even believe there's nothing I can do to repay y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like if I do a deal that give y'all $1 million a month, you'd be like, all right, we even. You know what I'm saying? Like because of everything that you guys gave. You know what I'm saying? So for everybody out there listening, when you contact them, like, I don't like to be that guy in the inbox that's just asking questions to be asking questions. You know what I'm saying? Like I respect people. I hate to even ask questions. Sometimes, like I get so prideful, like I ain't gonna reach out. But I don't want to be broke either. I'm like, they got the answers. So it's,
Amen.
get out your own way. Work with the person in the mirror, not against them, and leave. And like I said, with y'all, it's hard to do because it's like, how can I give y'all more value than I take away? But I'm going to attempt.
Hey, listen, man. You gave us value already today, man, by sharing the story. A lot of people on here have never even heard us talk about this type of transaction, and we've been talking about this for over a year, right? So a lot of people I see in the comments are seeing they're getting that spark in their head that we gave you because of what you're telling them, right? So each one teach one, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Each one teach one, man. So you're already blessing both of our hearts, believe it.
How did closing day go? Like, walk us through the actual process. That's what Bilal wants to know. Was all the parties there? What was going on?
So this is the very first time I've ever even attended a closing. And crazy enough, me and my attorney got a really great relationship with myself and my business partner, Ray. But we've never seen him face to face, right? Between COVID and you just work remote, we never seen each other face to face, right? And so closing day, I'm in there. I'm like, man, you're a lot taller than I thought. But anyway, so the original homeowner was there because she had to actually get a check, right? So for whatever reason, she didn't want the wire to the bank account. And just for her peace of mind, like I said, she don't really have a lot of family up here. The people who were helping her were incredible, but they weren't getting paid anything for it. And so just for her peace of mind, because this was different for her too. People don't sell houses every day. And, this was a family home for her. So I was up there with her the day of closing. The note buyer had wired the money in, but they're on West Coast time. And so they 3 hours behind. And so by the time they got around to wiring the deal, because it's like, we got to do this in September 1st. Like, I need you guys to wire this in, 6 a.m. your time. And it felt like the longest day in the world and then I started to feel like, wait a minute, like, I don't know anything about these note buyers. I pray to God that they legit, like, I'm like, why would they get us this far just to dump us? Like, they got nothing out of it, like they got to be real, right? So again, it's a lot of faith, but they finally sent the money in at about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when that wire hit, man, the wire hit, the young lady got paid because she had to sign off on the documents. The borrower was able to pick up the keys. And it's trippy because September 1st, I had paid for the moving company. And so even the moving company is on. So even the moving company was like waiting for this wire to hit because, I built a relationship with this guy. I'm like, the money is coming, because he's like doing this on faith. I could have paid him out of my pocket, but that would have stuff was getting tight at the time. I'm just gonna be transparent. Mm-hmm. And closing day was very it was very eventful, to say the least. But when that wire finally hit, and because this woman's stuff is being moved out the house, so she didn't have a house to go back to, and she got a plane that she's getting on. So I was kind of, I was past borrowed time. It was me and God. We got real close.
Yeah, we've been there. Hit, hey, we've been there many times, many days.
Yeah, that wire hit was like was my God. It was unlike any feeling that I'd ever felt before, and not even from me. It was a sigh of relief because this woman can get on a plane with her check and go to her family. You know, we can go ahead and get a borrower their keys. You know, the note buyer now actually has something solid, and I can take a guilt-free nap.
Amen. Amen. That's what it's all about. All right, we got one last question because we gotta let Gerard go back out and hit those phones again. But I was asking, would this type of finance work on properties without much spread? That's a great question, Jay.
100%, right? I mean, we're doing deals that a wholesaler can't do, that a flipper can't do. Okay, and there's multiple reasons, because your end price to that end buyer is more than what it would be for a flipper or a traditional conventional mortgage, right? Because it's seller financing. So yes, I mean, deals with low spread are perfect for this type of situation. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, guys, people are buying essentially the monthly payment and the cash flow. And if they're going to make money over the next 20 years, let's say if they're going to make $50,000, would they pay you $5,000 to make $50,000? Yes, they will. So the numbers might not be as big on tighter deals, but there's always a deal if the numbers are right, no matter how big or small, where you can get paid your fee and you can work it out 100%. Listen, Gerard, I want to share real quick all the energy out there, all the good vibes, because this is what you brought to the table by sharing your story. We got Mr. Banks saying, like this energy. We got Mr. Taylor saying, congrats, Gerard. I appreciate this channel and its value as well. We appreciate you guys. We got Gerard opening up the gates. We got Karen saying, woo-hoo, very profitable lesson to learn and earn. Great job. I mean, guys, this right here is everything. We appreciate you, Gerard. Congrats on that deal. This right here is the license to drive for the rest of your life, because there's no reason why you need to stop at this point. You know what you need to know, and this will forever be an asset in your family for just yourself, and you got to pay it forward to the rest of the people coming up, because this right here changes communities and changes families.
Definitely. Hey, thanks, Gerard, man. I appreciate you coming on here, just sharing that story. You know, like we said, it's a wonderful story, man. I'm happy that you took something that we were saying and were able to turn into that deal. And then I know you're spreading out to other people, so we appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much. Again, I didn't open up the gates. You guys opened up the gates. You guys blew the doors open, man. So thank this podcast. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts online. And my children's children are forever grateful.
Guys, this is creative financing. We're not here calling us gurus. We're actually doing these deals. We're financing these deals. We're helping people just like yourself on these deals. If you want to partner, if you got scenarios, reach out to us. This is what we do. We don't have a problem to talk about it. And let's get busy on these deals. They're still out there. Even in COVID, we're still doing deals.
Yep.
All right, boys.
All right, guys.
Get back to Puerto Rico, unpacking and all that craziness, because Jay's doing these deals in Puerto Rico. Like, he's in Puerto Rico doing deals in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Tulsa. Like, guys, this is not something that you need to do in your market. You can live anywhere you want, and Jay's doing it. You see the palm trees in the background? He's flexing on us right now. Like, bruh.
Kevin got palm trees too. Don't let Kevin lie. Kevin got right outside his door, there's palm trees.
Guys, we appreciate you. Let's get out of here. It's time to go eat.
All right, guys.